in science, we always say that you make observations, you have a theory, you go make more observations, and it's a very, very tedious process. Wrong. Nobody that I know of in my field uses the so-called scientific method.
So it's probably a good place to start. You know, somebody was making the point of a real life interaction. You know, would that be classed as a debate? You know, I don't know if you heard. I'm just trying to say to people, look, debates, we're not looking to vote here and be swayed by argumentation or any of these things. We're talking about, you know, laying out, you know, how we discuss things with each other and what, you know, agreeing upon what we're discussing. You know, realising it's subjective, removing our emotions and our subjective biases and whatever else to focus purely on the cold hard facts, which brings us into substantiating stuff and, you know, objects of thought and whatever else, if you want to.
Yeah. Well, before we kick off, I think one of the important things just to keep reiterating here is that we need numbers still, right, to actually make things happen. So more people still need to, how should I say, cross the river, right, and stand up, be their own men, so that, you know, we have enough numbers to go out and explore, right? And I always just think part of that, Dale, is that people start to know their own mind and make the proper discernment, because only if you're empowered by that knowledge do you then realise the bullshit situation we're in and the necessity to change it. Yeah. So, you know, I think all of what at least I try to do is to, I don't know, break down the way I see it from my experience, where those discernments have to happen, where people need to really hone in and say, okay, I understand those parts of the deceit, so that it can't happen again. You know, I mean, I'll get back to that. There's nothing worse than the next generation getting suckered into the same shit we had. Yeah. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it is about, you know, getting knowledge out there. And one of the things that, you know, we've talked about now numerous times is this self-evident truths, right? Based on our Constitution and the fact that you don't need a language to practically demonstrate something to somebody, that water is wet, that it freezes now and again, you know, depending on the environment, the fire burns, that all these things are self-evident things that you do not need to use words to persuade or argue for. You know, in fact, it's absurd to argue for it as it is to argue against it. You know, you need to be a mental case in either way to see a debate in the fact that water is wet. Do you know what I mean? It would be as nonsensical for me to try and argue with somebody, it's wet, it's wet, it's wet, and somebody saying it's not wet. So, I mean, these things are a sign of a cult belief and a mental illness if you get into that debate. You have those self-evident truths, right, that we don't need to argue for or against. And as far as I'm concerned, these things are the basis of all our knowledge, right? So, you know, without those self-evident truths that we all know to be true, without any words or any explanations, but by way of practical demonstration, we can all go out and get wet. We can all go and get burned, right? Those are the things that you build on that knowledge, right, to the things that are less obvious. So, you know, you can have things that are obviously true and things that are not obviously true, but the basis of these things are the self-evident things that we all take to be true. And then you look at the things that aren't obvious and you try to explain them in terms of things that you already know. And that's, if you like, the hierarchy of knowledge. And all those things, as far as I'm concerned, they'll have to be built on the physical, on substantial things. And then we have the sensible layer, is what I call it, like our sensations, our feelings, you know, twangs, toothache, pain, you know, all these kind of things that have to do with the way our physiology works. And then at the very top of that hierarchy, you've got the mental objects of thoughts, which are just ideas in your head, right? As you say, it's like people's opinions, it's like people's ideas and concepts. They don't mean anything if we're looking at it on a broad base, right? You know, that's somebody's opinion is not a natural fact or a self-evident truth, right? And
But
people
just-
need to understand that hierarchy.
And just to add into the hierarchy, the second tier there, things that are not that obvious, it still comes into the realms of practicality. Now, I know myself as a practical person, it doesn't matter what topic or subject, if there's a practicality, something that's substantial there that I can get my mind onto, I can understand it. And I think for me that's true for the majority. Everybody has that. If it's a practical reference, then you can have the understanding of it. You know what I mean? So
absolutely, yeah. And I mean, those things, I mean, that hierarchy of knowledge, let's say, I mean, for me, they very much start at the very bottom. You have your constitution, the body parts that you're made up of, the objective reality outside that has its natural laws that never change, right? Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, you've got things like, evidence. Or you've got hearsay, right? Yeah. Or you've got people telling you things, right? So, and all these things are less and less the higher up they go, all the way up to this mental object that, somebody's opinion or something. Yeah. That means diddly squat compared to what's happening down at the physical level of objective reality, which we all share, right? Exactly. So, and people are far too much caught up in this mental stratosphere, if you like. We're being perpetually bombarded with, ideologies and with visible images to try and, stake it up or emotionalize us, right? Yeah. And that's where people are just lost at that top. And, I feel what we have to always do is bring people down through that cascade of knowledge so that they understand the objective reality. Yeah. And that's where, water proves that, we're on a level fucking plane. It doesn't, because it can't bend, right? Exactly. And that's where we get back to this topic of something being substantive, right? So, you need to substantiate a claim, right? And substance can be used in practical demonstrations. Yeah. But if I look at, to be honest, it started off there when I was just asking myself, why can't the globe prove their claims? Why can't they? Why do they not have any measurable, demonstrable, practical proof of their claim? And the very fact of the matter is, and we've said this a number of times, it's because it's just a concept, right? It's a mental object of thought that has no substance, right? And what they're doing is they're confusing our sensible world, right? The way we are, right? The way we see things, the way we hear things, the way our mind works. They're confusing us into believing that there is something physical, but it's not. It's just a purely mental object of thought. Exactly. Yeah. And mathematics is a very good example of that. I know it very well, right? That when you have mathematics and you look at, for example, all of the globe mathematics is based on two-dimensional spherical geometry, right? And I say two-dimensional very purposefully. It is a two-sphere. The difference being that they only look at the surface of the object and they ignore the fact that a curve has to bend in three-dimensional space. So that they're just taking the surface of a ball and they're abstracting that and they're saying it's a two-dimensional object that they can play with. Yeah. Now, a two-dimensional object means that it has no substance. There's nothing inside it. It is not a ball. Yeah. So every part of the globe mathematics uses two-dimensional spherical mathematics that has no substance. And that's the reason they can't prove any of it. Yeah. That's the reason it will remain a mathematical concept of two-dimensional spherical geometry by playing with the axioms, but they actually have no substance.
Which is why they've got to fabricate through the screen, some three-dimensional representation or apparent three-dimensional representation of the concept. That's what it keeps, I say it all the time. You've got objective reality shouting and screaming in your face and people are omitting it, ignoring it, hand waving it away because they're so enamoured by what they see here two-dimensionally on a fucking screen. But using colorations and whatever else that appears to be three-dimensional and there's wee guys moving around about it and whatever, it's bollocks.
No, it's bollocks. I mean, we've said this before. In fact, you have the very good example of if you look down at lampposts down away, far away, and people, they all look to be midgets, right? But we know that is just a function of the way we see the world, right? Of our visual perception. Yeah. And it's those kind of things that they play on, when they're trying to say quantification and using the visible world to bamboozle us. Yeah. But I just want to point out to people that people can Google this. A two-sphere and a three-ball are two completely different things. A 3-ball is a real substantiative ball that you can grasp in the physical, reality. And a 2-dimensional sphere, which is all the globe mathematics, is just that. It's just a surface with no substance.
Yeah.
And that's why all their claims are unsubstantiated.
Exactly. So
that's why they have nothing to show, to practically demonstrate.
And this is why they'll ridicule it, because as you say, the 3-ball in actual reality, water on it, doesn't conform to it, doesn't stick to it, falls off. The 2-dimensional mathematical, concept, it can stick to it, can do all sorts of fantastical things. But, right, okay, well, let's put that into the 3-dimensional practical reality and it just falls apart.
Of course it does. Has to, because it's just a mental object. Yeah. It's just a mathematician's wet dream, right? It's just, him thinking up ideas, coming up with axioms, formulating some definitions that he wants to be taken for granted by everybody else, and we all buy into it, right? Because he's the smart guy, so people buy into what he's saying, and they'll buy into his conclusions based on his logic. But all he's really done is just define things the way he wanted to, using word style, using grammar, right? And then using rhetoric and stuff to tell the stories around it. They have no substance. And, you can even see in the mathematics has no substance. It's 2-dimensional. It's like impossible. So for me, it was, just very clear when I asked myself the question, why can't they demonstrate any claims? Hey, if it's a 2-dimensional mathematical object, it has no substance, right? So there's absolutely no way for them. They never will substantiate any of their claims. They never will be able to practically demonstrate.
Which brings it full circle again back to this idea of the dichotomy in debates. There's no substance to it. There is no practical references. We're not talking about the concepts, the ideas within the minds, the objects of thought. There's nothing to be won or lost there. It's just, what's cold hard reality. Demonstrate it for me. These beliefs and claims that are being made have to be rooted and reasoned in something, demonstrable. And that's that. Simple. It's a pink unicorn at the back of my shed. Do you want to debate me about it? Or do you want to just come and go in the back of the shed and see if the pink unicorn or elephant's there? Can I produce the pink elephant for you? No. So where's the debate? Standing bodies of water, bend and curve. Demonstrate it. Can he? That's not how the substance behaves. Right, so we've got a problem now.
In science, we always say that you make observations, you have a theory, you go make more observations, and it's a very, very tedious process. Wrong. Nobody that I know of in my field uses the so-called scientific method.